Definitely. Number one, we have to be really clear on the role of the salesperson in an organization. And I think this is something that needs to be explicitly explained to other departments. And that is that a salesperson or a sales department is a direct revenue stream for that organization. That's what they are. They are employed to bring revenue in. Now, years and years ago, we were told, weren't we, don't ever say that the reason I'm here is that I pay your wages. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you bring revenue into the business, or you have a product that brings revenue into the business, or you have an online service that brings revenue into the business, well, actually, it is paying the wages, isn't it? Because it's generating revenue. And without sales, you simply do not have a business.
Welcome to the Sales Problem Podcast, where we talk everything sales, success, and personal growth. Thanks for joining us. Let's get growing. Welcome back to the Sales Problem Podcast, and welcome to Season 3, Episode number 9. Here's what we're going to give you today: powerful prospecting, and even more powerful proposals. And the word that everyone in sales wants to hear: yes, I want to buy. I'm your host, Neal Burns, and I'm joined by the baddest man to ever carry a business card. He's the infamous Steve Comerford. Steve, welcome to episode number 9. What have you got in your Sales Problem Podcast mug today?
Oh, Daniel. Hey, great to see you. Feels like I haven't seen you in a while, so this is refreshing and energizing. So I'm really pumped for today. I have a little morning glory.
Ooh.
Hey, guess what? I ordered this stuff. It came to my door. I got a discount because I listened to this show. Oh, hang on a second. I am on this show and have it in the coffee mug. So ready to get going for the day and energized to get going into the second half of the year. So I'm excited to hear about Simon, some of his tips and tricks and ideas about really getting into the second half of the year and really blowing it out and having a successful finish for all those people out there that are looking to re-energize after the summer break. So that's where I'm at. How about you? What's going on with you?
I love the energy today, Steve. The Crank Coffee is kicking in for sure. Yeah, we did take a little bit of a summer hiatus, but I am excited for today's show. I want to remind our listeners, too, of our new podcast partner, Mamat.ca's Protein Cookies. If you're watching the show, not just listening, I am holding up a Mamat.ca's. And
those
every
things are
sales...
big.
It's a huge cookie,
massive.
Steve. So if you are on the road, your health really matters. So pick up a Mamat.ca's, super clean ingredients, 21 grams of protein. It is just an absolutely delicious snack. What I like, Steve, is you turn the package over and you can read every ingredient. It's not a bunch of, sciencey names, very clean ingredients. And the best thing to do with a Mamat.ca's is put it together with our favorite coffee. It's the Crank Coffee from the Neal brothers. Today, Steve, I'm drinking Get Cranked. It's a
Heavy
dark
duty,
roast.
Dark roast,
yeah.
Yes.
I've got it in my Sales Problem Podcast mug.
Wait, hang on a second. Click, click. Got the picture.
Exactly. So in the show notes, we're going to link you to both of those items. It's not making Steve and I rich. It's just two things that we love that we want to give back to our listeners. So go to the show notes, click on the links, put in the Sales Problem 15. You're going to get 15% off your order. It's going to come straight to your door. And that is the business. Steve, let's jump into the podcast. Are you ready for today?
I'm in.
All right, now to the focus of our podcast. Listeners, let's go. I'm excited for today because we have Simon Hares on the show all the way from the UK, and this is why we brought him on. Simon is the owner of Serial Trainer 7, and he has over 35 years of experience in sales and management. And we love having people like Simon on because they work on this one goal, which is getting salespeople and managers to where they want to be. And he does that quicker and he leaves you there better. And I love that about Simon. He's got such great energy. I've seen him on a few podcasts, and I suspect for our listeners today that this episode is going to be like no other. We are so blessed to have Simon on the podcast today. Simon, welcome to our show. Are you ready to help us solve the sales problem today?
I absolutely am. And thank you so much for having me. I'll tell you what, I definitely need as a guest gift. I think I need one of those mamat.ca things. I definitely need a podcast cup. And 2 of those packs of coffee would be absolutely great. So we'll look forward to receiving those over. Yeah.
Steve, we're going to have to get these packages together now. Our guests are asking for them. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to do that.
Yeah. And a small business account for all the shipping. Yeah, we'll get her done.
Yeah, let's get that done. Let's get it done. Hello, chaps. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. And for our first segment of the show, Simon, for season 3, we always do the same thing. It's the classic elevator pitch. We are so nice and kind to our guests that we just throw them into an elevator. We close the doors. We cover off on some big topics that we think our listeners are wanting to get some information on. So give us your best 1 minute of advice, your best insights into some of these big topics. We're going to throw you on the elevator. Are you ready to go?
Is Keanu Reeves on the elevator? Is it that type of elevator ride? Is it one of those? I've watched Speed again recently. They dug it out and it was like, that opening scene will do that. Pop quiz, kids.
There is no bomb on the elevator, I can assure you that. But we... All right, so let's go to floor number 1. Simon, I heard a take that you had that I absolutely loved on this important word, which is trust in selling. Give us your take on why that's so important.
Well, trust is something it's bandied around a lot at the moment, and people talk about trust so much all the time, and they try to break it down. And there are a number of different people out there that are making a lot of noise on trust at the moment. And I will just talk very quickly that there is a brand new book out by Larry Levine called Selling in a Post-Trust World. This is a fantastic book that's out there right now. And Larry talks a lot about trust. Larry and I are very aligned on what trust means and what it's supposed to stand for. And when we start to think about trust, we know that trust has 3 different layers. And when you're dealing with customers, they're going to start at, I suppose, 3 floors, if you will, if we're in a lift. On the first floor, we've got what we would call face-based trust. And you would have heard of people saying that, on face value, that seems to work. And when we trust something at face value, it's complexion thin. And it's our first angle in. It feels right on the surface. If we can't go any further, then we won't get any further with somebody. So it's as simple as that. But we can get to the next level. And the next level is faith-based trust. And faith-based trust, we hear customers say all the time, I bought this in good faith. These are words that we actually hear people say. And faith is very closely linked to hope. And we live in hope that something is going to work based on buying something or dealing with somebody in good faith. And then, of course, we've got our third layer, which is context-based trust. And context-based trust is where we have something that assures us that it is going to do exactly what it says it's going to do. But of course, this all has to start somewhere with trust. And one of the questions that I ask many people who attend our training sessions and we talk about trust is, what's the difference between trusting and trustworthy?
Ooh.
Now, it's a thought provoker because people initially think, actually, I know the answer to this question, but once you start to kick it around, there's quite a lot of stuff that comes out. And you start hearing people saying things like, well, I don't trust anybody. I don't even trust myself. And you think, really? How did you even manage to get out of bed this morning? Why would I put you in front of any of our clients? Why are you employed? Any of those things. But what we have to know is that it's a bit like chicken and the egg, really. If you think about trusting behavior is about taking a chance, listening to your gut, listening to your instinct. Those things that make you go, I'll take a chance. I'll give you a go. That's me being trusting. And in order for you to be trustworthy, I have to be able to put my trust in you, because once you've proven that you can do what you say you do, you are then trustworthy. So if we think about chicken and egg, which never really gets solved, trusting in trustworthiness actually does have an order. In order for trustworthiness to exist, someone has to take a chance and they have to trust. So if you think about people who are going in and selling something to somebody where actually they're not just going to go in and sell something like for like, they're not just doing a replace transfer. They're not just saying, right, we'll replace what you're already using with what we've got. Where they're going in and saying, we're just going to disrupt the entire thing and change the entire way you do things and sell you this product. For example, software. I might sell some form of HR software, for example, that does everything from onboarding to recruiting to performance management. But at the moment, that particular company only has a performance management tool. You might realize very quickly that you've sold them on the performance management tool, but they need to take a chance on you because everything else you do just fits and makes sense. So they've got to take that chance that that's going to be right. And that's the risk element. So when we start to think about trust starts on those three levels. It starts with face, faith, and context space. It then goes into a chance where somebody has to understand, am I going to be trusting in order for you to have the chance to be trustworthy? And then what we have to do is we've got to think about the things you're going to be measured on. And there are 5 components that we're going to measure on in trust. And those 5 things are very simple: credibility, reliability, consistency, intimacy, and vulnerability. So credibility, you've got to be credible. You've got to be able to stack up what you're doing. You've got to be able to prove it, substantiate it, evidence it. You've got to be able to show it. You've got to be able to be reliable, to say what you're going to do and then do it. And then you've got to be able to duplicate that, replicate it over and over again to the same standard. You've got to be able to be consistent. And then you've got to get to know people. This intimacy thing that goes on, where we get to know our people and we get to know our customers and they get to know us. And then lastly, we've got vulnerability, where ultimately we are happy to share that we're human too and we screw it up. And yeah, things do go wrong, but we've got disaster recovery. We've got customer recovery in place. So we show all of those things. And actually, if you make it really easy, you can put it into an equation. So you could go trust equals credibility plus consistency plus reliability plus intimacy plus vulnerability divided by, and this is the extra bit, self-interest. If you put and think about yourself too much, you will erode all of the other elements, because then it will only become about you, in which case you will erode the trust. So when we start to think about trust is really powerful. And I always ask these questions, and I'm going to turn the tables on you two guys. All right. So are you ready? I've got some questions for you, but I need your first answers. Are you ready?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
We are going to reinvent trust. Reinventing trust.
Okay.
Think about the things you trust, chaps. First question. If trust is a car, which brand of car are you driving? Answer, please, Dan.
Toyota.
Steve.
Volvo.
Great. Top answer is Volvo. Top answer is Volvo.
I always knew Steve was smarter.
Now, the funny thing is with Volvo, when we think about why do people trust Volvo? Well, Volvo apparently invented the seatbelt, and they didn't actually then patent it for themselves. They gave it away to the car industry, which actually was quite a nice thing. And Volvo is the first car that drives around permanently with its headlights on. Mm-hmm. Volvo is also the aspirational car. It's something that people aspire to. House in the country, couple of dogs, kids, gravel drive, all of those things, Volvo sitting on the drive. It's that kind of aspirational thing that we have. Toyota comes up as number 3, which is interesting. Volkswagen usually number 2, a German car. So we have those things. So we know what a car is. If trust is an animal, chaps. Question 2. Steve.
Golden Retriever.
Dan.
My Italian Greyhounds.
So it's definitely a dog, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely a dog. Number one answer is a dog. Number one answer of type of dog is a Labrador, because a Labrador is the only dog that
Pretty
we
close.
trust with our hearing and our eyesight. So we basically trust it with our life. So
I like this game. Is there a prize at the end, Simon?
what's that?
Is there a prize at the end of this? Like I think I feel I'm doing really well.
Yeah, I have got a prize for you, and it's that coffee that you're drinking right now.
Okay.
It's great. So the one that I'm going to try in order to sell it to you is a really great thing. And that cup you're holding there, Dan. So that's good. Question number three. If trust is any brand, which brand is it that comes to mind first of all?
I'm going Starbucks.
Starbucks for you, Dan. And Steve?
Oof, this is a tough one.
Come on.
I'd almost want to go on the hotel side. So Four Seasons.
Great answers. Really, really good answers. So my question back to you is, those are great answers for the brand you trust most. So not the Sales Problem podcast then.
Ooh.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
Now,
Caught us on that one.
right. Now, here's the thing. When I ask this question to many salespeople, they don't say the brand that they work for, which tells me they've got too close to it, that they don't see it anymore, in which case they don't really know what that brand stands for anymore. Question number 4.
Yes.
If trust is any destination, where are we going? Steve?
Burlington, Ontario.
Okie dokie. Dan, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to say a nice little cottage here in the Maritimes.
Are you? Well, these are great answers. Now, is that because both of those places are your home?
Yes.
It's familiar, consistent.
Okay.
I think that's why I would answer that.
That's it. And the number one answer, actually, that most people give is home. It's home. And then lastly, if trust is any person, who might that person be that you trust the most? First answer, please. Steve?
Oh, it would have to be my wife.
Your wife. That's great. What a great answer. She'll be very happy. Daniel, your answer, please.
First one that popped into my head is my mom, but I feel like it should be me. It should be I trust myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. The first answer that should come into your head is you. You should be. I am the most trusted person. So when we start to think about what trust looks like, we've got all these different layers to it and the reasons why we trust things. But remember, it goes both ways. It really does. We talk all the time, and I'm about to put something out on LinkedIn about this shortly. Do you know what? There's so much pressure on salespeople to show that we're trustworthy. There's so much pressure on salespeople to show trust. But how many times will people say to you, do you know what? I got into a really good relationship. They signed a really good contract. But the fact was they expected us as the supplier to do all these things for them. And we did it. We stood by our ground. But do you know what? The most simple thing that we asked them to do is pay their bill on time. And they didn't do it. They didn't uphold their end of it. And you know what? Salespeople are held to task for being untrustworthy, that we rip people off. But you know what? Sometimes it goes the other way, because if we don't end up understanding that trust is mutual, that as much as salespeople have to be trustworthy, suppliers have to be trustworthy too. We want to be in that powerful relationship. And I want to end this floor on trust by just showing you something I show to everybody. My magical trust cards. Now, I'm holding up a set of trust cards. Now, chaps, you can see I'm holding up a card that says the word trust on it. Yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that trust card is there, but what we have to understand, within trust, there is a you and there is an us.
Yes.
And it's based on everything that's true, right?
Right.
And if we get it wrong, then things can rust. If we get it right, we could be called a saint, in which case that trust gives us the right to strut. That's what makes up trust. And that, guys, is level 1. That's our first floor. We are done on level 4, going up to I don't know. What's on level 2? Gym wear and hosiery? I don't know.
I don't think you're playing fair here, Simon. One
playing
floor. There's too much on that floor for us to take in as podcast hosts here, but that was an absolute masterclass. That was a mic drop moment.
Yes.
So much. So listeners, go back and just re-listen to that, because trust is really the foundation of selling. And here's what came up for me, Simon, is that selling is about creating partnerships. And that partnership involves trust. And that sounds to me like it's very much a two-way street. Both people have to participate, buyer and seller, to have that trusting relationship that's going to last a long time.
Yeah, and I'll just throw something else in as well. There's a lot of people out there in sales right now, and we'll come to it with prospecting, who have, I don't know, they call them disruptive sales techniques. And some of these techniques drive me nuts because they just throw a curveball, and it's not good. But there are some people out there as well who genuinely believe that relationships are not everything. Because they say, well, you wouldn't have a relationship with your lawyer, would you? You wouldn't have a relationship with your doctor. You wouldn't have a relationship with your surgeon. Do you know what? You might not have what appears to be a relationship there, but you certainly trust them to do something based on those levels that we talk about. You trust them to be credible. You trust them to be reliable. You trust them to be vulnerable enough and to be intimate with you. You trust them to do these things, and you trust them to have been consistent. You're sure as hell, as the anesthetic mask is going over your face or it's being injected into your hand, having the surgeon leaning over you going, well, I hope this goes well. It's my first time. It's like, wait. You sure as hell wouldn't. So there we are. Anyway.
Okay. Doors are closing. Ding, ding, ding. We're going up not to hardware, but to floor number 2, which we're going to find a keyword in selling, prospecting. Talk to us about powerful prospecting and your take on that.
Well, prospecting is a great subject. Oh, doors open, of course.
Yes.
Welcome to prospecting. So prospecting is an interesting one. And you know what? People talk about prospecting in so many different ways. They call it all these different things. They call it business development. They call it prospecting. They also call it cold calling. And then, of course, we see the world's most favorite LinkedIn post ever, which is, is cold calling dead? I mean, seriously, can we just throw that one in the bin right now? Can we just throw that in the bin with, dog walkers who don't pick up their dog's crap? Can we just throw that in the bin just with all those types of people? Because it drives me nuts when people say this. I work in the legal sector as well. And within the legal sector with sales and business development, they call it business development, but ultimately it's just sales, And the thing is, as Mark Hunter famously said, sales is a lifestyle. It's something you should be doing every single day. And when we start to think about having good habits, prospecting should be something we develop a habit and get used to doing. But like all habits, and if we use exercise and the gym as our playground for analogies, when you start to think about leg day in the gym, no one really likes doing leg day in the gym, but you have to do it. And prospecting, I think, is the equivalent of leg day in the gym. You should do it every single day. And the fact of the matter is that if you're just going to rely on your business, and it doesn't matter to who's listening to this podcast, whether you're a sales professional who works for a large organization or whether you're a sales professional who is a business owner and actually starting out for the first time on your own, you have got to go out and get that business, because you could have, let's say, keep it really simple. You could have 10 clients that you're currently working with right now. But if you lose one of those clients, your client universe has just shrunk by 1. So what are you doing to top up that client universe? Well, you've got to be able to keep it topped up by going prospecting, because it only takes one more person or even one person to leave you again, and you'll shrink even more. And recently I did something where someone said, well, what would it matter if we just lost one client? One client's not going to make a difference to, we've got thousands of clients, I heard this big company say to me. And I said, okay, but if you're one of those people that segments your business by top 20 clients, do you top 20 them by top 20 by spend, top 20 by frequency, top 20 by volume, top 20 by referral? What are you actually doing your top 20 by? Do you know that person said to me, I've never heard of any other top 20s apart from top 20 spender? And I said, okay, so what happens if you lose one of your top 20 spenders? That's going to impact your bottom line big time. What happens if you lose one of your top 20 by volume? Suddenly your warehouse is going to look very, very different. And what happens if you lose one of your top 20 by referrer? If one of the top 20 clients who refers you a lot of business that you rely on, that stops you from prospecting because you just take it for granted it's always going to come in, suddenly disappears and they go with someone else. You have got to be out there going after it. And you know what? I live in a kind of sales 101 world because I've been in sales for a very, very long time. And there's a lot of people who come on training courses or are aware of training and don't come on training courses because they feel they've learned everything they need to learn, or they feel that training isn't going to teach them anything. And you think, do you know what? If you think you're not going to learn one thing or have one thing reaffirmed for you, what's wrong with that picture? Why would you want anyone in a sales organization who does that? I learn every single day. I'm learning and reading from people every single day. And you put these things into practice, they learn, they polish, they refine. And when it comes to prospecting, we have to keep the knife sharp all the time. And I'm going to use a little analogy with you. And I wish I had a knife with me now, but I don't have one. If you think about a knife, a good kitchen knife, right?
Yep.
A kitchen knife is resharpened and rehoned over and over again. But the process that keeps it sharp is the very process that forged it in the first place. Because when that knife was forged out of liquid iron or liquid steel, it had to be honed and sharpened on a steel or a whetstone to make it sharp, to give it its edge. And out it went in the world, chop, 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 doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you know what? Over a period of time, chop, 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 it becomes blunt. And there is nothing more dangerous than a blunt knife. A blunt knife actually does more damage than a sharp knife because the wound is serrated. It's harder to heal. A sharp knife is a clean cut. Therefore, it's easier to heal. What does that have to do with sales? A sharp salesperson learns from their mistakes and moves on because they constantly chop up their skills and they refresh. But blunt salespeople think they know it all, they never change, they keep making the same mistakes and expecting good things to happen as a result without learning or growing. And don't they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Well, guess what? Let's throw all those blunt knives away, or let's get those blunt knives into a room and resharpen them again. Because you know what? You will come away and learn something. You will come away and have something reconfirmed, and you never know, you might have been right all along. And that's fine too. So we've got to keep our skills really, really sharp. And we've got to start thinking about, different ways of reaching people. The pandemic changed everything. If you think about it, we're talking on video now. Before the pandemic, no one was really doing that. I used to say to people that I was using Skype to be able to talk to people because I genuinely did not have time to go around the country with my own company, seeing people. It was a waste of time and money to get in a car all the way for a no. You may as well do it over video. Talking about Skype now is like talking about Friends Reunited, isn't it, in MySpace? So guess what? Pandemic comes around and suddenly we're all doing it. We're all having Teams meetings and we're all having these things with our clients, but it moves into the next stage. And over the last few years, we've seen things like video messaging has absolutely taken off. And I love video messaging. I use it all the time. I use it within LinkedIn because it's got that video functionality there. But my platform of choice is Vidyard, and Vidyard is the one I use. It's free to use and you can brand it if you want to for a charge, up to you. But it's a really great way to reach customers. And when you're doing prospecting, especially if you're doing it by the phone or what have you, or by email, those are ways in which we're used to talking to people. But if you're just prospecting with email, then really and truly, customers, prospects, what are they going to do with an unsolicited email? Well, they're going to do the same thing that you would do with an unsolicited email. They'll just jerk it away. But, if you've ever looked at your inbox or your message center in LinkedIn, it's mostly filled with text. But I guarantee you that if you received a video message in there, you would watch it. You would watch it. And the reason you would watch it is because it's unique. It's because it will make you look at it. And if you've got someone who's actually holding up a card that says, "Hi, Daniel. Hi, Steve," and it's personalized, as simple as that, then ultimately people will do it. They love to see their name. On my email sign-off video that I've got through Vidyard again, I'm just holding up a card that says, "Watch me." People can't help themselves. It's like, don't touch the red button. Don't touch the red button. Oh my goodness, I touched the button. They have to do it. And when you're prospecting, it's like they're right in front of you. It's very personal. It's straight in their face. They really tend to like it very much. And I always believe that what takes you 5 minutes to write in an email takes 30 seconds to do in a video. So, it just makes sense to do it. And I've won a lot of business through doing it that way. And many people think that they're not very attractive. They're constantly doing their filters and all this for Instagram. Well, if you're doing it for that, you can definitely do it for this. And look at me. I mean, for crying out loud, seriously, I'm 56 years old. I've got no hair. I've got the campest voice in the whole wide world. Now, if I can do it, then you can do it. So therefore, no one's got a face for radio. Let's just get on with it and just do it. And I will share this little story with you before we go to another floor. I just want to share this. I was training someone recently, and they said to me, "Do you know, I received a video message from someone the other day, and I thought it was awful. I hated it. It was so personal. I felt it was so in my face. How dare they send that?" And I said, "Oh, right." I said, "So you watched it then?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, right." I said, "And how many other people have you told about this video message experience?" And she said, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "Well, you've told the other 15 people that are in this room." I said, "And I expect you've told other people outside, haven't you?" She went, "Yeah." I said, "So how many emails have you ever received that have been unsolicited where you've just read it, been horrified and outraged, it's made you feel something, and you've gone and told people about it?" She said, "Well, that doesn't happen very often, does it?" I went, "Mm-hmm. Yeah." I said, "And tell me, what did you do with that video?" She said, "Well, I wrote back and said I wasn't interested." I said, "Oh, so you responded then?" I said, "Do you respond to unsolicited emails?" She went, "No." I said, "I win." So it doesn't matter. If you don't like it, but it made you feel something, it made you talk about it, and you actually responded to it, then it's worked. It's as simple as that. So, I turned around and I said to her, if it was somebody turning around and saying to you that they've got Taylor Swift tickets for the Eras tour, do you want to go with them? I bet you'd watch it then.
Exactly.
So, with prospecting, they have to be doing it. But the thing is, and, I love this quote from Larry Levine. Larry Levine said that most salespeople have hypnotized themselves into believing that what they're not doing doesn't work.
Love that.
It says,
and just for our listeners, Larry Levine is the Selling with Heart podcast. Am I right?
Selling from the Heart podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Selling from the Heart. And he's created quite a movement. And I can evangelize about Larry as I would about people like Mark Hunter, Bernadette McClelland, which have you. And I genuinely think that Larry has something very special in the way that he communicates and the way that he talks to his customers and the way that he ignites something in people. And as I said, we're very much on the same page. And it doesn't mean that we're just focused on that. We are in a place where we realize that sales is about making money. Let's make no mistake on that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a pathway, it's a route, and it is about that connection. And that's what's so important.
And I'll encourage our listeners to go listen to that podcast because fantastic guests, fantastic episodes. Simon, very much aligned to what Steve and I are doing here. And one thing that you mentioned is sales you can continuously learn. And that really is the premise here for this podcast. Steve and I have been in sales ourselves a long, long time, and we're amazed by how many little insights we're picking up and then also sharing at the same time with our audience. And you mentioned about the analogy of the knife. For me, that brought up Stephen Covey's, sharpen the axe. And that's what this is all about. It's about bringing on experts with those little insights that will help you get to the next level, because there are so many of them in sales that I don't care if you've been in sales for 60, 70 years, there's still always something to learn. Let's go up to floor 3 so we can keep learning.
Before you press that
Okay.
button, you mentioned Stephen Covey's 7 Habits.
Yeah.
My company is called Serial Trainer 7. The 7 is the 7th habit. Always sharpen the knife.
One of the first self-improvement books that I got addicted to, and it started the dominoes falling. So let's go up to floor number 3. It is 7 tools for life. Steve is holding up. Okay, we're not going to sporting goods. We're going to powerful proposals. Simon, take it away. What do we need to do to add some power to our proposals?
Okay, so one of the things when it comes to proposals is that people tend to end up using them and just writing them very much as an ad hoc thing. They'll put the main content of a proposal in an email, and you'll see stuff going in, and it will be mainly driven around cost. Mm-hmm. And this just looks a little bit shonky, and it kind of devalues what we've got. So when we start to think about a proposal, we need to think about 3 key things that we're going to be doing in that proposal. The first one is going to be, how are we going to be using the subject line of the email when we send it? Number 2, what does the main body of the email for the proposal look like? And number 3, what does the proposal itself look like? So these are 3 components that are very, very top line. So if we start with the subject line, this is really important, because when we send something to somebody, we've got to make that subject line work really, really hard. And I'm a full advocate and full user of this following technique that I think everyone listening to this will like and will get used to using very quickly. And it's all about abbreviations. You may want to grab a pen.
Got it.
You will want to write the abbreviation when somebody asks you for a proposal, RQSTD INFO. It reads requested information, but it is abbreviated. Put a colon after it, write that RQSTD info in uppercase, and then in lowercase, write the context of what you're doing. So the email subject line will read requested info, capital letters with a colon, and then proposal for Daniel Burns, and a bit more. But that would be in upper and lowercase. So what happens is when that client receives it, they are seeing something that has the subject line first and foremost, saying to them, you have asked for this, so therefore read it. And as long as they have requested it, don't try and circumnavigate it. As long as they have requested it, then guess what? They'll be very happy to open it, and they'll open it a lot quicker. If as a result of receiving that requested information, they wish for more information, send it to them, but change the subject line. This time, your abbreviation is ADDTNL INFO. It reads additional information, colon, with the context. It says to the receiver, you've already had something from me and you've asked for something more. Here it is. If you require the recipient of the email to come back to you, then put this abbreviation in, RSPNS RQD. Response required.
Oh.
And guess what? They will. And if you would like them to process your invoice, or to sign a contract or do something for you, then your prefix is ACTN-RQD. Action required. If you do that, when you send a proposal, it will get read, it will get actioned, and you'll get them come back to you. Far, far better than writing anything that says urgent or important, because nothing really is. And just on that one, I've got one for anyone who works in an organization and interacts with other departments and can't move until another department does something for them. For example, a department like marketing or accounts, which would need to do something for a salesperson in order for the salesperson to move forward. Please don't write things like important or urgent, because it will get lost in the email mass of all of those. Just put this one in. The prefix we use is the word client and WTNG, client waiting. Believe me, people will pull their thumb out of their butt quite quickly for client waiting, because they realize that by receiving that email with client waiting on it, there is definitely a consequence that will happen if they don't act on it. So therefore, if there was any performance issue around that employee, they can legitimately say, I did send it to them saying that the client was waiting, but they chose to ignore it. So therefore, we've got 5 really, really good ways to make the subject line work. Our second area is the body, the body of the email. The body of the email needs to be working like a compliment slip. And in the very old days, we used to send things to people with a little strip of paper that was called a compliment slip that said, please find attached. Or it would say, hope you're having a lovely day, please find da-da-da-da-da. And you put a paper clip with it. And yes, paper clips actually existed, people. Here's what they look like. And you had this piece of paper, this compliment slip. What we have to do is to make sure that when we send proposals, we actually put a compliment slip in it by using the main body of the email as that. So it would read like this. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for asking us to send the proposal over to you. You will find it attached to this email with our compliments. I hope you find everything you need in there. Just as a top line, you will see inside our proposal aligned to your problems together with costs and deadlines. I will contact and follow up on this in the next 7 days. Thank you so much, Simon. Done. Then they open the proposal, which of course has to be a PDF and needs to follow a structure. People can use any structure that they want. There's a load out there. But there are some things that often get missed when a proposal is sent. Number 1 is an expiration date. Every proposal must have an expiry date to it. So that number 1, the client doesn't hold you to ransom to prices if they delay, let's say they delay for 18 months, 2 years, and they're holding you to ransom for prices which are out of date. And of course, in negotiation, that could actually be their starting place. So remember to keep that up to date. Make sure as well that you've got a follow-up activity that's in place as well. Make sure they know when you're going to follow up and what that follow-up looks like. It needs to be what we would call an advancement follow-up, not just a continuation. An advancement being where the client themselves needs to do something as well as the salesperson in order to move it forward. That might mean you need to bring someone, bring something, do something that you couldn't do or wasn't there before. So therefore, we need to have those things in. And one thing that I always say to people not to do on a sales proposal is please, please, please do not put customers' logo on the proposal. Never brand it with their logo. You can use their name, of course, and you should use their name, but don't use their company logo. Remember, they know who they are. The object of the exercise is to make you stand out, be relevant, differentiate you, and get them to remember who you are. They already know who they are. And of course, we've all made the mistake of putting the wrong company logo on, haven't we? When the client says, where did you get that logo from? We go, oh, I got it for your website. Go, no, you didn't. You picked it up off Google because it's 5 years out of date, or it's the wrong version, or it's the not the high res version. And you sat there with something on screen that's all pixelated. Yeah, I know, me too. And I thought, you know what? No, definitely not. So from then on, I just didn't bother doing it, and I just don't do it anymore. So when we start to think about proposals, there's a whole lot we can talk about, putting in prices and putting in all the contact and everything. But I will tell you something that I read very recently it's just changed everything that I've done. We always hear that the number one skill in sales is listening. Agreed? We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So in our proposals, when we start writing the proposal, instead of starting it with a boring section called About Us or Our History or a little bit about us, as we put in, cut all that crap out the way and just write the words, what you told me or what I heard. If you write what I heard, then you are demonstrating to that person exactly what they told you and showing that you have listened and you have remembered. And this will go an awful long way. Just simply saying what I heard, what you told me.
I love that. And Simon, you pack so much into these 3 floors. Our listeners have got so much already. Steve, I'm going to kick it over to you because I want to hear you talk a little bit too, Steve. So much Simon has given us. What are your thoughts right now?
He has packed it all in already.
Yeah.
And what I've heard, like that, Simon. I'd like to get over to we talked to a lot of salespeople, business people. You talked about business owners, but I read a little article or a little blog that you had around customer service, and I'd like to go into all of the other people that touch the customer and their impact on the sales and the impression or the brand or driving prospecting. Like what are your nuggets there that you could talk to the people that are listening that are in customer service or sales support, and really looking at improving their game and driving more sales? Can you go there a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Number one, we have to be really clear on the role of the salesperson in an organization. And I think this is something that needs to be explicitly explained to other departments. And that is that a salesperson or a sales department is a direct revenue stream for that organization. That's what they are. They are employed to bring revenue in. Now, years and years ago, we were told, weren't we, don't ever say that the reason I'm here is that I pay your wages. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you bring revenue into the business, or you have a product that brings revenue into the business, or you have an online service that brings revenue into the business, well, actually, it is paying the wages, isn't it? Because it's generating revenue. And without sales, you simply do not have a business. Now, that doesn't mean that sales is the be all and end all, because obviously there are dependency relationships that go on throughout the organization or the company that help the whole process happen. So what I'm always interested in is companies where actually those departments never talk to each other, where we hear people say sales and accounts don't get on. We wouldn't mix those together. That's like oil and water. Or sales and marketing. Oh my God. And you get salespeople sit there and go, do you know what? I'm not listening to a word they say because all the collateral they put out there, they never once face customers. They don't talk to customers. We're the one. And yet we're supposed to only talk about the stuff that they produce. We're not talking to them. The simple solution is just do lunch and learn sessions in the business where you invite all of those departments together to get together for 1 hour, where they share some curly sandwiches and beige food and sit down and they just listen to the customer service team say, these are the processes that we have and the authorities that we have to put something right if it goes wrong. This is what we have. And for salespeople to say to customer service people, this is how we build the relationship. These are the things that customers like to hear. And then to give them exposure to what information about that client is on the CRM. So then if someone's on HubSpot and using that, or, other platforms are available. If on one of the other floors, if they're just sat there using any of those things, and they're just saying, right, I've got this particular client here. We've got the Sales Problem Podcast client, and we've got them, and here's their client record on Salesforce. They're going to go, yep, okay, have a look at that. Can you read a lot of the detail about the personality of that person you're going to speak to before you call them? And then you'll have a better understanding of what they're like. Do you know what? That rarely happens. That rarely happens. Sometimes those fields are closed off.
Yeah.
Same with accounts. I find sometimes that accounts people, whilst they are very gifted at what they do in managing money, managing, anything to do with account ledger, purchase ledgers, credit control, all of those things, totally respect what they're doing. There is a blind spot in actually understanding the amount of energy and effort it takes to get someone to part with their money in the first place. And that's what separates salespeople from everyone else. We have a gift that allows us to get people to give us their money. And we do that through selling features, benefits, value, and influence. That's what we're doing. And that can be all unraveled by creating silos in organizations where they don't talk to each other. So the simple solution is just get people talking to each other and share information about clients.
Yeah.
Talk to each other before you contact them. Don't blindly have one deck that's put together by a department that goes out to every prospect, because we're not sheep dipping our clients. We just talked about building trust. We talked about using tailored processes. Why are we just using a one size fits all? Doesn't make any sense to me. So basically, those other departments, just get them to be more commercial, and also get salespeople to understand exactly how accounts payable works. How does a purchase ledger actually work? What does credit terms mean? How flexible are we on credit terms? Is it something we can negotiate with? What make it right policies do we have when customer service goes wrong? What are those processes we use? And can salespeople actually be trained on those so that actually they might be able to deal with it before it even gets that far, before it's escalated? It's just about talking to people. That's all it is.
I agree that communication between the groups and having a better team aspect and a better team in front of your customer goes a long, 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 long way.
Yeah, sure does. I mean, just
makes all the difficult situations a bit smoother when things do become a little hairy later on. So thank you for that. So I want to touch on one other part. Was you mentioned it's a changed world in sales, and meetings are sometimes hard to come by. There are a lot of salespeople that work from home, work over the internet, or work over the phone. So, are there, or what you've seen so far, you talked about Vidyard and video emails or video messages. Are there other tools and or ideas that you've seen so far that are helping salespeople get better in this day and age, or the change in the sales environment?
Yeah, there are. I'm just prompting myself there because you've just tripped on something. I had to write something down before it went out of my brain, and now I can tell you.
All right.
So there is a sales goddess whose name is Shari Levitin, and Shari did some research during the pandemic around the way that buyers are buying as a result of the pandemic and the things that are important to them. And she came up and coined this phrase called comparative expectation. So it's about what I expect from people, and then I'm going to look at what you do and I'm going to compare it to everyone else that does what you do, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
She determined that post-pandemic, taking price aside, customers want three key things. They want speed, they want service, and they want security. Three key things. So if when we are talking to clients today, even if those clients don't work at a click, at a speed, we need to work fast. So it's not enough to turn around and say to people, well, they asked us for a proposal. I'll do it by the end of next week, because otherwise, if we do it too quickly, it'll make us look too desperate. No, you get it out now, because customers want you to work that fast. And that means you've got to be following up as well. Don't follow up and leave it 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks, so many other people could have come in and just whipped it out from underneath you. And if you haven't heard from someone in a couple of weeks, you've probably told the customer in no uncertain terms that you don't care and you've forgotten all about them. And I recently posted on LinkedIn that I won a piece of business, and I found out I was up against 5 other training providers for sales training. And the client told me on my 5th contact, they said, we were just about to contact you, Simon, to say we wanted to work with you and you beat us to it. And I said to them, as I always do, what was the thing that got me over the line? And they said, you were the only one of the 5 that has followed up and stayed in touch, which
Wow.
I thought was quite ironic, seeing as they were looking for sales training. So speed is really important. Service is really important as well. We want to be able to give people the best service we can. We want to give them really good service. And of course, we hear these cliches like go the extra mile because it's never crowded, all of that stuff. Well, here's the thing, right? I heard service absolutely nailed in a nutshell for me by a hotelier called Thomas Cox. Now, Thomas Cox used to be the hotel manager of Claridge's in London, and he is now the hotel manager of the Corinthia in London. Thomas is an amazing general manager at a hotel, and you can have a look at his talk that he gave called Captivating Moments. And this is what service he captured in this amazing talk. And for me, what service really looked like. And he said that when somebody has an experience in a hotel, they don't talk about it like this. They don't go, well, when we checked into the hotel, we had our bag carried by this fantastic person. The floors were so clean. The reception was amazing. The check-in was brilliant. We were given a drink. We were taken to our room. It was a beautiful staircase. They don't go into that much detail. Nobody does that. He said that people have a moment, and there will be a moment where something happens and that's what they remember. So it could be that, and to use an example that he used, you could go to a concert, and let's bring it right up to date and talk about, you could go and see, Oasis, because everyone's talking about Oasis, aren't they, right now? You could go and see the Oasis concert. You could listen to that again. And do you know what? You've been there for 2 hours, and on the very last song that's sung, let's say they finished on Wonderwall, he hit the wrong note. And it came out completely flat, and everybody heard it. Well, do you know what? On YouTube, that will go viral. Gallagher Brothers hit a wrong note, and that will be the moment that people will remember, that moment. If you go out to a restaurant and you have a beautiful 8-course tasting menu and the dessert is served on a chipped plate, that's the moment you will remember. So therefore, what we have to do is to understand that we have to create memorable moments where something will click. And we use the 3 letters TEA. They spell the word T, and they stand for technical, emotional, and aesthetic. 3 moments of service that we have to give our customers. As salespeople, we have to demonstrate technically through our credibility, reliability, consistency, that what we do works. That it works as well on a Sunday as it will on a Monday, as it will on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it will do the same next week and every week thereafter. We are technically brilliant, so that technically we can have a client go, yes, I get it. You're absolutely right for my business. Regardless of what I think of you, I actually think you're right for our business. So they have a technical moment. And it could be that moment where you do a demo for software. And instead of standing up and saying, so as you can see, we're on the login screen. We're going to talk you through your password. And then you'll see a menu. And we're going on to that menu. You know when they do those demos? It's that technical moment where someone fires up the demo. It goes up on screen. And they turn the laptop around and they hand it to the client. And they say, you drive. So if you can click on there, and you click on there, and then you do that, and you said to us that you would like your onboarding system to be really easy for new starters so that they can log their own system and manage their own onboarding and probationary period. Well, you'll see we've got it all mapped out if you just click on there. And then that salesperson then says, can you just log out of there for me? And if you can go back in again and find your way there for us, just as we showed you, you'll see it just takes 6 clicks. And then they go and do it. There you go, technical moment, bang, done. All because the client drove. A technical moment. We have an emotional moment. An emotional moment is where we feel something. where we work with someone and we talk to someone, a salesperson, we think, I really like you. I really get on well with you. I think you get us. I have an emotional meaning. I feel like I can trust you. That emotional connection. And then lastly, something that often gets forgotten and something that sometimes lets me down a little bit, which I'm always keen to work on. And it's my kind of attention to detail with spelling and grammar and all of that. And it's aesthetic moments. What something looks like, how you present, what you look like, what you sound like, what your material looks like, what your product looks like, how you present it. If you're pulling out of some, your product out of some ropey bag you've been carrying around forever and a day, people might look at those details. I work within a bathroom company and they sell luxury bathrooms. And I always say to them that from an aesthetic point of view, you've got to make sure that if people are spending, £20,000-30,000 on a new bathroom, then they're not going to walk into any of your showrooms and see Nick, Mark, and Chip in your showroom. And they're not people, they're actually things. Nicks, Marks, and Chips. Because customers will look at that and they'll say, well, if that's the way you look after your showroom, what are you going to do to my home? It's an aesthetic moment. We have to make sure that everything shimmers and shines and looks polished and beautiful. So when we start to think about service in today's world, we can use the old cliches like going the extra mile. We can do all of that. Or we can actually identify, like Thomas Cox does, that it's made up of moments where technically you demonstrate that everything works, always has done, always will do, where emotionally you will have a feeling connection with something that will make you feel good to buy and feel like you want to refer once you've gone through that experience, and you will advocate and you will review. And then, of course, that aesthetic moment where everything looks polished, refined, and perfect. That's what service is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll share a moment with you. I traveled through Ireland this summer, went to Killarney, stayed at the Victoria Inn. So here's all the plugs for all the good stuff that happened to me, but ran into Maura. So she was at the front desk. And that moment that kind of changed our trip was her question around, what are you going to do tomorrow? Yeah. And we were like, we're not too sure. We might, do the Ring of Kerry or do that stuff. As you can see, I'm wearing my Guinness t-shirt. But she said, oh, you have to, you should try the Gap of Dunlow. And she said, this is what would take place. It might be for you, it might not, but I think it would, give you a full understanding of being in Ireland. And we did it and loved it. And it was just that key moment that kind of turned the trip into something spectacular. And then back at the Victoria, and she just exemplified what service looked like. And throughout that little boutique hotel was a fantastic stay. So I think she touched on a lot of what you just described, just in that little time period. So thank you for sharing that. And I think if anybody's listening, I go back to that and just understand those key components. And I think you can really deliver an exceptional experience.
Watch his talk called Captivating Moments.
Yeah.
It is quite incredible. You can find it on any YouTube. Just type in Thomas Cox, and it's Kochs, his surname. And it's truly, it's one of those moments where you watch something and you go, oh my God, that's it. And you don't need, you just walk away going, I don't need anything else. It's that.
Yeah. It's super.
Love it. I'm going to highlight to our listeners, are you creating memorable moments for your clients? And Simon, one of the takeaways that I just got from you is just how important that follow-up is. And I think I see that so consistently, is that people may follow up once or twice, but I think it's 8 times you really need to follow up with the client to get them to where they need to be. People need people need multiple contacts. So hanging in there. Look, the last hour, Simon, has flown by completely for us, and you've packed so much into it. Absolutely love it. Where can our guests find out more about you, Simon? How can they connect to you? Because you've given so much.
Well, I just want to give one more thing before I tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you just touched on it, and I have to give you this. if you're going into a little area there, and I feel we won't do it justice if we don't just wrap this bit up. You mentioned about following up 8 times.
Yeah.
I said that I have 14 times that I follow up. I would like to just share with you something we do when we stop that process. And it's called the close your inquiry email or message, whether it's a video message, voice message, whatever it might be. When you get to that stage where you have tried anything you can to follow up, send this message or something like it. Dear Steve, dear Dan, as you know, we met and discussed on this day about this particular product, and you said and seemed you were very interested in moving forward. As you would no doubt have seen, I have tried to contact you on a number of occasions in many different ways, and I have not heard back from you. At this stage, I'm going to understand that you have found another supplier for what you're looking for, in which case I am now going to close your inquiry. Thank you so much for considering me. If there's anything else you need, then please let me know. Best wishes, Simon Hares. Now, here's what's going to happen. When that message lands, what's going to happen is 2 things. The first thing is you will get someone who will read it, who is then being given the permission to say no to you explicitly. Customers very rarely say the word no, we don't want you. No, go away. They don't say that. They come up with what we call objections. What you're doing is giving them the explicit permission to say, you're absolutely right, Simon, we have found someone else, and no, we're not interested in moving forward with you, but thank you anyway. At least then you know where you stand. You're not chasing ghosts and you're not chasing a tire kicker. That's the first thing you're going to get back. But the most common one you'll get back is this one. Hi, Simon. I'm so sorry. We've been so busy with so much going on. It has completely slipped our mind to come back to you. Yes, we are still interested. Da, 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 da. Here's something I want people who are listening to this to remember. If you get that response that contains in the first sentence an apology, I'm so sorry, we've been remiss, the chances are they definitely want to work with you. So as soon as you get that email, do not reply by email. Pick up the phone and they'll answer it and they'll talk to you straight away. And you can make those next step happen straight away. If, however, in that email, and this is where the magic lies, chaps, so I really want to zone in on this. If in that second response where they say we've been busy, we've been doing other things, there is no apology, then you will never get that business and they never had any intention of getting it anyway. The chances and probability drop. If they care enough to apologize, then the chances are you've got it. If there's no apology for not coming back to you, walk away. Don't chase that.
I feel good, Simon, because I just went through that same ordeal with the client, ghosted me for a couple of months. And it's funny because I had texted back because it seemed to be the one way that I could connect with the business owner.
Yeah.
And did the same thing. It's like, I wanted to fulfill my obligation to you, my promise to you. It seems like we're not connecting. And I don't know, I could probably pull up the text message, but then he responded.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to hear that he did apologize. My failure, I think, in that one is that I should have picked up the phone right away. That was, I like that little takeaway. But he did reply back after I said, great, we'll connect when the timing is right. And he was, I really appreciate your flexibility or your openness. I forget what he said, but so I feel good, but I continue. I need to follow up a few more times just to keep the momentum going. So that's funny. That's good.
And Simon, in Canada here, we always apologize.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, we're sorry. So
we're just sorry for being sorry, really.
Yeah,
exactly.
So where can people find me was your answer.
Yes.
So people can find me on the only platform that I hang out on, because I only hang out where my clients hang out, which is LinkedIn. And I do believe that with social media, you should only hang out where your clients hang out. So use the social media that works for you. You can only ever find me on LinkedIn. So you can connect with me there. You can go to the serialtrainer7.com webpage as well. There is a video on every single page of my website introducing you and talking you through the website, so you can get to know me a little bit and you can get to know the website and interact with that. And there are full contact details through LinkedIn and on the website as well. So it's really easy to find me.
Well, we are going to link all of our listeners in the show notes to all of those areas that Simon just mentioned. And thank you so much, Simon, for being on our podcast today. Today, you have helped us solve the sales problem. And you gave our listeners some new knowledge that they need to thrive and succeed. You've helped them grow by enhancing what they know. Listeners, we absolutely love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening. And if you've learned from this podcast today, please send it to a friend, send it overseas, keep helping us grow into all these countries. And until the next episode, keep building the best version of you.